All right, so if you're a new vibe coder, you're probably getting overwhelmed with the different options of software that there are out there. There's so many different tools, everything from Cursor to Bolt and Replit and V0, and you don't understand what the difference is between all of them and where to start. That's what this video is here for. I'm hoping to guide you and help you understand that there's different tools for different people, depending on where you're at on your stage of becoming a vibe coder and becoming a developer. So let's jump right into it. First things first, we got to talk about how there's different spectrum, or there's a whole spectrum of vibe coding. On the one side, all the way over here, we've got Andrej Karpathy's original definition of vibe coding. And what he was referring to there was really about, letting it ride. So it putting something in as a prompt and just letting the LLM do its thing, letting the AI go. He mentions, don't even look at the code, just, understand that it's just going to grow, it's going to get super complex, and there's no need to even understand what's happening with it. Now, this is coming from a man. Andrej Karpathy is a PhD from Stanford in machine learning. He's one of the OpenAI co-founders. He ran the self-driving division at Tesla for a long time. This man, there's no doubting his chops and his ability to program any number of things, right? He's obviously a professional. And what he was talking about here is that the LLMs and the AI had gotten so good that he was able to just talk to his computer. He actually had a speech to text application running. He would just talk to his computer and tell it what he wanted. And it was giving him something that was useful. And he thought that was just really cool. So that's why he sent out the tweet. I don't think even he had, an idea that it would turn into what it has. But it's important to understand his definition. He also, outlined in that tweet that what he was building was fun side projects and little utilities and tools and things that likely would never leave his computer. Not things that he would be charging people for, or that he would be, storing other people's sensitive data on there. None of that kind of thing. So even from him, someone deeply in this and obviously very much enjoying the power of AI and enjoying vibe coding, he understood what it was for. So it's about, the philosophy here is kind of like let it ride, but also no sensitive data, and no financial no payments or anything like that. Anything where things could go bad really fast. And so that's what he was referring to when he sent out the original tweet that came to define vibe coding. Unfortunately, what a lot of people have really taken that to mean is, oh, well, now there's this concern that you have these people that are in charge of massive code bases and they're using vibe coding and they're, violating all these security practices, and that's causing a lot of issues. And that's true. But it's also important to understand that there's utility there for these LLMs and AIs to provide assistance to even people doing that kind of work. So I would absolutely not advocate for someone that again is in charge of a highly secure application, let's say in healthcare or at a bank, using AI to write a new feature and then just ship it without reviewing it. That's a great way to cause disaster and to lose your job real fast. But what there is an opportunity there is for these things to be assistance. So there's a gentleman out there by the name of Simon Willison. Tremendous amount of respect for him. Incredibly great thinker in this space, and doer. He does a lot to help people come down the path of learning about how to use these tools and everything in a responsible and safe and effective way. And so he came up with this term called LLM assisted coding, which I think is really great. And the basic premise of this is that you're not just letting it ride. You are reviewing every line. And so you can use these AIs to write, let's say you're in charge of a bank. There's nothing wrong with, as long as all the proper security measures are in place, with using the tool to understand your code base and to help you formulate a plan and even write the code for a new feature. But the big differentiator here is that you, the author, the individual, the human being, right, that's driving, is ultimately responsible for the code and everything that's in it. So what people on this end of the spectrum are doing is they're using the AI to help them write code, but they're reviewing every line, every feature. They get it, they understand it, they know exactly what it's doing, and that makes it okay. Because what does it matter if my fingers typed those letters in the code, or if an LLM wrote it? As long as I take full ownership of everything that's there and I understand all of it, then it's just, I think what he calls it is a glorified typing assistant, right? He's just somebody that actually types for you rather than you having to do it yourself. And I think that it's an important distinction to make here. And I also find that it's really useful when trying to understand what tool to jump into. So what's out there? There's a lot of these different tools out there, and they all, I think, are catered towards people on different spots, different slots on this spectrum. So let's talk about a tool like Rue and Klein, and there's a couple of other similar ones, Claude Code. These are tools that are really targeted at professional developers and professional programmers, and even to the point where they follow a lot of their workflows, and they're meant to enable them to move faster. But they're not meant to replace them. They're not meant to be doing all of the work and then not be reviewed. They actually, one of their chief outputs, one of their biggest outputs are PRs, or pull requests, which are just requests for, hey, here's everything I did, and here's all the changes that that are impact, or all the changes that have impacts and what those impacts are, and everything. So all the way out there is a tool like that. So if you hear somebody, oh, I vibe coded this thing with Rue, and you've never programmed a thing before in your life, this is far out of your wheelhouse. Don't go over there. It's going to be frustrating. It's going to be unintuitive, and you're going to have a bad time. Slightly further in from that are some other tools that you've probably heard of that have gotten a little bit more attention. Tools like Windsurf and Cursor, and to some extent, we're going to put VS Code Copilot in here. Now, these are tools that live in an IDE, so there's a little bit, usually there's going to be more affordances, or there's going to be more windows, it's going to be a little more user-friendly, but they, again, are targeted towards people who are currently programmers, who already know their way around an IDE. An IDE is an integrated development environment, and these are just forks mostly of VS Code. And they're, again, not quite as technically focused as some of the ones that are further out here. But again, if you are coming into this with very little experience, these are probably going to feel overwhelming, and they're probably going to be confusing, and they're meant to be driven by someone who understands the details of what needs to happen, an architect, if you will. It's just driving for you. But if you have no idea what you're doing and you try and download, Cursor and just jump right into it, you're probably going to struggle quite a bit. So let's keep moving further down the spectrum, and see if there's something that makes a little bit more sense. Then we can start getting into things like Firebase Studio. Firebase Studio is still going to be an IDE, but they've put a lot more guardrails on it. They're trying to make it's a web-based now development environment, so they can add a lot more features to it, and they can run it on a virtual machine. Because that's the other thing over here, when you're downloading these types of tools, they run locally, and just getting an IDE working on your machine sometimes can be exceptionally difficult, because there's all these other packages, libraries that you have to download and get running, and running well on the right version, and all this kind of stuff, just to be able to do the basics. I know that that's something, the first time I tried to learn how to code, I gave up, because just trying to understand VS Code and get VS Code to work on my machine turned into days. I was like, this is crazy. So if I can't even get the app working that I need in order to build other apps, then how am I ever going to do this? So that was one of the first times that I ever quit coding, was just doing that. And they've come a long way. And now that you have an LLM right there, you have an AI right there, you can ask the AI, hey, why isn't this working? And it can give you assistance. So that makes it a lot smoother. But still, a little way out there on you really kind of need to know what you're doing already in order to get into it. So moving a little bit further back, we're going to have some tools like Replit and V0 by Vercel. And we're going to start to lose some of the ability to build complex applications they're still going to be fully functional. But some of the complexity we're gonna lose our abilities to do, which for most people is actually okay. It's a really big thing. This is a huge focus in software engineering, even way before AI came along. But a lot of people think, oh, if I don't select the right tool right now and my app blows up and I need 1 million customers, then what am I going to do? Worry about that when you have 1 million customers, okay? Don't focus on that right now. When you get to 1 million customers, you can have employees that are going to help you handle all of that. Or by that time, really smart AIs. Who knows? But anyways, just these are really great tools to build functional apps. And again, trading off a little bit of that complexity, but it's going to make it simpler for somebody who's never done this before. They're going to offer prompts, right? You're going to be going through and building something, and it's going to come to you and say, hey, you probably need a database for this, or maybe you need an integration to this service in order to be able to make that feature work. So it's going to start to prompt you things that more experienced developers who are over here on this side of the spectrum are going to get frustrated with, because they're like, no, quit telling me what to do. I already know. I just need you to do my typing for me. Tools that are over on this side are geared towards more beginners that are going to offer you suggestions, and that's actually a good thing, again, if that's where you're at in your journey. And then we go all the way further over. We've got tools like Lovable and Bolt.new. And these are really focused on building simple front ends. So in software engineering, you've got a front end and a back end. Front end is going to be everything that the client sees or that the user sees. And then the back end is going to be, your database where all of your information is stored, integrations, things that as users, as a common user, common software user, you never see or even mostly even aware of. These are going to be really good at building everything on the front end. So everything that you see. So great for building your own landing page, your own portfolio page, and other small maybe apps and tools that you want to use with your friends and family. These are great for that. The interface is going to be primarily a chat window. So rather than opening up, having to install, some IDE or some complex program on your computer, and then it opening up and you're seeing a bunch of text and you don't know what to do with all of it. What does this window do? And what does that window do? These over here, your Lovables and your Bolts.new, are going to be, you're going to open it up and it's a chat window. It's just talk to me. Tell me what you want and I'll show you. And it automatically opens up previews. So that way, as it's working, you can kind of see what it's doing and you can see what it's building in real time. And you can give it feedback right there. It's geared towards visual feedback as opposed to, getting into the details of the code and providing feedback that way. So that's what you're going to have over on this side. It is so important to be honest with yourself about where you're at in this journey. These are good tools, both for building right now, over on this side, on this side, the left side of the spectrum here. They're good tools for building right now. And they're also really good at getting you to move further along in your journey. Because as you see what it does, the more times you prompt it and the more times you say, here, I'm trying to build this, you're going to see, as long as you're reading through those chats and just glancing them, just giving them an overview, you're going to start to understand, oh, okay, when I would do this, it's going to start to build this kind of app, or it's going to use this framework or use this language, or use these libraries or packages. You'll start to become more and more familiar with that. And as you become more familiar with it and more comfortable with it, you can move further down and you can upgrade to a more powerful tool. Again, it's just so important to understand where you're at, be okay with that, start there, build there, get more comfortable, and then move forward. Because if you jump in too deep, you'll get frustrated, you won't understand what's happening, and worst case scenario is some of these tools can actually be really destructive because they're installed locally. So an application like Cursor is installed locally on your machine. When you enable the AI to drive, it can input one line in the terminal that could erase your entire computer and crash your whole computer and brick it. And so there is risk. There's a ton of safety that have been put in place. I'm not trying to like fearmonger here and say you don't use Cursor because it'll blow your machine up. Chances are it won't happen. I started using Cursor way before I felt totally comfortable with it, and everything turned out fine for me. But it is something to be aware of, that there's risk there. And also, you could, if you're trying to build a SaaS and you're trying to build something that people are putting their credit card into, you need to be really careful out there, because again, this will let you deploy a lot of stuff that's not safe and that's not ready, not production ready. And you could be putting yourself at risk, at financial risk and at lawsuit risk and things like that. And it's not worth it. Now over here, they're going to have a lot more controls, and they're going to have a lot more guardrails in place. Again, that it kind of limits your flexibility and some of the things that you can do, but it makes things much easier, for you to actually be able to build things that can deploy. A lot of them have what they call like one-click deployment. And to understand that is that, you can build something, but in order to be able to share it with the world, you actually have to put it on the internet, and you have to find a way that it can connect to the larger world. And that can actually be a very difficult and time-consuming and tricky process, if you're building over here in Cursor and Windsurf and stuff like that, to understand what you then have to do after you've built something that works on your computer to then make it work on the internet is a big step. Now, a lot of these, especially like V0 or Cell, something that I've worked with, and Replit, they've got tools where they actually start building from the ground up. The moment you start building, it has deployment in mind. So it's already giving you the tools, it's already integrating a lot of those tools, so that way it makes it super easy to deploy it. And they offer hosting services, so they will actually do it for you. So you literally just click one button, say deploy it, and it handles everything from prepping it for deployment and then actually hosting it. So then it gives you a URL, a link, and then you're ready to share it with the rest of the world. So um, anyways, I'm hoping that this is helpful. Please leave comments. Let me know. I'm going to put some links in the description, links to Simon Willison, who's done a lot of conversation about this. I'll link to Andrej's Twitter so you can see that original tweet. Just recently, the Indie Hackers guys have released a directory of a lot of vibe coding tools with great write-ups about each one, if you want to research a little bit further, to understand which one is right for you. So anyways, hope that was helpful. Again, give me some feedback. Let me know what you want to see, and we'll see you in the next one.